Hi, I'm Aura, but there's a bunch of people around as usual, and I'm the host of Collective Mind, and I'm here with Primal Pack, and we are finally, some might say, gonna do another reaction to Sanders Sides. This is one of the shorter asides, so it's a nice easing back into it, but I know people are excited for it. So yeah, we'll see how long this ends up being based on how much we have to say, I guess, but this should in theory be a shorter one, and yeah, we'll get right to it.
Do I always know how to start these videos? No. But does it
Me
always come
neither.
together? No. But it doesn't matter because I at least use the most important tool in comedy: timing. What is up, everybody? I'm a little tuckered out from all of the intense self-evaluation and internal debates about my life choices, so today I'm going to stick with activities that I couldn't possibly find any issues with. Things like making the bed. Thomas, we need to talk about you making the bed. I didn't even get past the first item on my list. Specifically, the part of the process that entails the repositioning of that. Benjamin?
Dealing with persecutors be like.
Benjamin. I'm not.
Also, kind of me dealing with Josh be like, just commenting on everything I do all the time to make sure I'm taking care of myself and such.
Yeah, but the whole, let's do something that I couldn't possibly find fault with. Joke's on you, someone else will.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure what it is you'd like to discuss. I don't know how much needs to be explained here. You still place it on your pillow each morning, and we can agree that this is merely due to a force of habit, and that maybe Benjamin is better off in a new home now. For example, a child's home. Right. Whoa. Put the bear down. Slowly. Okay, yeah. All right, okay. And walk over here, mister.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I always knew you'd come after the stuffed animals one day, Logan. But I'll be darned if you're gonna take Benjamin I Buttons.
There's the full name.
Is he serious right now?
I mean, I guess habit's not the only reason Benjamin's still here.
And of course, the culprit is Mr. Feelings. Please, Mr. Feelings is my father. Call me Patton. You told me last week to call you Mr. Feelings. I was just... Thomas, I know that you probably think adults can't hold on to something like little Benjamin, but what if I told you that on top of it being okay, it can actually be useful? Listen, Patton, we could spout outlandish hypotheticals all day in order to...
It's so interesting, just character-wise, because I feel like this is both in character and out of character for Logan, because there are, like, studies and, like, stuff he could go into about how holding on to some things from your childhood like that can be, like, a safe and calming and emotional processing, etc., thing. But at the same time, he definitely is the least comfortable with feelings. So, and he likes being, like, perceived in a certain way, and I think he would probably personally be uncomfortable being associated with, like, wanting or needing that kind of comfort, never mind something associated with being a kid. So,
Yeah, also, Logan's got a really heavy persecutor vibe for this so far, just because a lot of times persecutors have their own internal reasoning for why they feel the way they do and why their arguments are what they are. And Logan has his reasons, and he's telling Thomas, who would be like a little or a slider or something like that, or a middle, or just someone who does something silly that isn't like I'm a super grown up type person behavior. And it's like, we should stop that because, I want to be perceived as mature and I can't do that with you doing this. And someone else is just stepping in and being like, actually, you can. And also for system communication stuff, someone else can do something. That doesn't mean that they're going to perceive you badly.
right.
Like, if I play with stuffed animals, that doesn't mean that, Sid from our system or something, who's like generally always an adult, very heavily adult figured and stuff, is gonna be perceived as a child because that's Sid versus me, and it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's okay to be your own person. And if someone else
Yeah.
has an issue for it, it's okay to talk about it.
Also, it's interesting because Logan's perspective coming into this is basically, I don't need this thing, therefore you don't need this thing, and the only reason you're still holding on to it is out of habit. He literally says, we can agree, the only reason you still do this is out of habit. Which
Yeah.
is either like a pretty big assumption and not giving him a chance to defend why he might still want
Yes.
or have need of it, or a more directly persecutor thing of, I know you feel differently than this, but I'm telling you what the like right answer is and not giving you a chance really to argue with me. Like, I'm telling you how you feel about it.
If this is Logan and actually Logan, I would say it is more of an assumption that the only reason Logan would do such a thing is because it was habit and has recently or something like that caught himself doing it and realized he needs to stop, so he's taking it upon himself to try and get everyone else to stop. And that's actually a really big issue that a lot of persecutors have when they do personal growth of any kind, and can also be a thing that protectors do as well really heavily, that is somewhat persecutory behavior. When you make personal growth, it is not your job, nor is it nice, to try and make everybody else hurry through those steps or make the same kind of steps you do. Because everybody grows and changes and adjusts at different rates. And just because someone adjusted and, doesn't want a stuffed animal anymore because they feel mature enough or whatever, or they think it's silly or something, that doesn't mean that everyone else needs to do that as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a lack of compassion, partially. I would say it is more malicious if Thomas was actually being the lying dude whose name I forgot, the snake face guy.
Yeah. Do you mean Logan instead of Thomas?
Did I say Thomas? I meant Logan, yeah.
Okay.
Because I know
Yeah.
before the snake face guy has impersonated Logan. So if he's doing that again, I would definitely say it's malicious. Yeah, that's his name.
That's not his
forgot what
name,
it
and
was.
now my brain, it's clearly been a while since I've watched Sanders Side, so my brain is not confident on which, absolutely for sure, if you know his name yet, like chronologically in this.
I have no idea.
And B, which of the names for sure is his, which now I'm feeling like a fake fan.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm going to call him Deceit,
we'll
just in
call
case
him
you don't know
Deceit
his
for now.
name, because I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't think I do, but like just Deceit in general. If this is Deceit, then it would definitely be more malicious, but otherwise I think Logan is just assuming, but also falling victim to the, I made progress and I saw how to do it, so now I'm trying to help other people do it, but the way they're helping is coming across more forceful and less like help and more like commands, which is, it's really easy to fall into that category. Oftentimes it happens a lot whenever I see someone struggling with something that I perceive really simple. Like, you, Collective, as a gamer, you haven't played as many like first person shooters or something, so your movements aren't as fluid or smooth or whatever,
So I'm
and you
bad
miss
at
a
it.
lot of things, or you don't have a lot of the common basic knowledge of first person shooters because you don't play those that much. And then like seeing you struggle with it is hard sometimes because it's so simple to me that it's hard to it can be frustrating to watch, but it's allowed to be frustrating and people are allowed to get through it at their own pace.
Another thing that I think could be a perspective on this, if we're going to look at Logan here as a protector who is not communicating particularly great in this moment, which can be a thing without them also being a persecutor, for sure. There could just be miscommunication things and stuff. Like, you can accidentally hurt people and stuff within a system without inherently being a persecutor. So if it's more of a situation like that, one of the ways I could see that is an attempt at communicating to Thomas that he's safe and doesn't need like that coping skill anymore. But that can go badly if you end up like forcing someone or pressuring someone to let go of a coping skill, even if you know that they're safe and you think they shouldn't need it anymore because like they're in a safe place and their life is like physically safe, like the events around them are safe now, you know. That doesn't mean that they still feel safe enough or have enough other coping skills to let go of that thing. Or if, like, the flip side of it, and it'll be interesting to see what his arguments are, but if he thinks there is any kind of risk to, like, being perceived as more vulnerable, for instance, if you are being seen as more childlike and stuff like that, if he thinks there's danger to that and that the coping skill isn't worth the risk type reasoning, or just personal, like, insecurities and stuff of I'm not comfortable being associated with that, and if you are, then I feel like I will be too, you know. So there can be a lot of complicated reasons.
Let's see
And
how
I
they
feel
handle
like and I feel like this is totally a type of thing that would happen in the system. This kind of argument over stuff.
To appeal to Thomas, but unless you have the argument to back it up.
Read it and weep!
What?
Well, actually watch it and weep. And don't actually weep, because then that would make me sad. But, you know, just watch it and get wrecked.
You made a video for this?
Why a VHS player?
I feel very strongly about this one, so I had to pull out all the stops. But PowerPoint scares me, so I went in this direction.
So you're thinking of abandoning your lifelong stuffed friends, leaving them to fend for themselves, discarding them like a heartless monster.
Okay, I was not advocating to toss it out. We could give it away to a child who might need it.
You may also be thinking of
Okay, so Patton is also not communicating great, to be clear. And I think this is reminding me about how I think of Patton as basically a caretaker, an emotional protector, and also probably a little, or at least a slider. But yeah, there's some like personal attack stuff in here that is not necessary to his point, because he is so he's feeling personally attacked, I think, and is lashing out a little bit in response. So
Yep.
because Logan hit a little too close to home.
about giving them away to a child who might need it. And yeah, that's actually pretty sweet. But if giving up your plush pal is only in an effort to, quote, mature, end quote, then consider this. Nah, man.
Solid argument.
Thank you.
I was employing sarcasm.
We all know stuffed animals are objects of nostalgia.
Oh, here we go.
I love you, Benjamin. And I would never do something as heartless as throwing you out.
Did I actually say that? I don't...
And while we want to avoid being swept away by nostalgia all the time, they are, by definition, I know because I looked it up in the dictionary, pleasant memories of the past. And they may remind us of those memories when we need them the most.
Okay, but when would we need them?
I can hear you ask. Well,
I have an additional theory. This type of thing could also come up because different alters can have very different associations with reminders of the past. So if we are going to think of it in terms of Logan could be a trauma holder to some extent, and whether or not Patton is, if they have different trauma to make this argument work, or Patton isn't a trauma holder. If Patton has positive memories associated with stuffed animals and Logan has negative ones, that can also make things like this really complicated.
Yes, but also, I want to point out the communication style that Patton is using is very, very ineffective for good communication
Mm-hmm.
because he is throwing out a bunch of arguments and a bunch of points, not letting Logan have responses to it. He's predicting what those responses are going to be and shutting them down beforehand, which does not encourage good communication. It tends to feel like you're being steamrolled when you're on the receiving end of it and doesn't actually promote an open dialogue kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a great method of communicating to do it like this.
Yeah. It's a
I
longer...
can understand if you have a lot of points and like want to talk about a bunch of stuff or you have a lot of ideas to get through, but then if you're just talking at someone because you have a lot of things to say, you're not listening to anything they're saying because you're only thinking about what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not actually talking, that's just talk. That's not like communicating, that's just talking at someone,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
a
not
lecture.
helpful a lot of times.
He is essentially doing a longer version of what Logan did at the start of this conversation, which is like making Logan's points for him, like you said, and arguing against them without actually giving him a chance to respond or state his position on that spot. That's what Logan did to Thomas at the beginning of this, of we can both agree that, and not actually giving him a chance to say his position on it first. So, yeah.
Slow down, kiddo. I'm getting
Also,
there. Stuffed
Oh,
animals have been-
yeah.
when you're on the receiving end of it, it also puts you on the defensive inherently a lot of times, especially if you have trauma, because it feels like an attack on you, because it's just constant things over and over and over, and it just further makes it worse. And like for people like persecutors especially who don't respond well to authority figures giving them commands, it can make them dig in their heels even harder and stand beside a point even if they no longer agree with it, simply because they're being forced, or it feels like they're being forced to do something else. And I know I don't respond well to people trying to get me to do things. Like if you try to push me somewhere, I will inherently reactively resist. If
Yeah.
you ask me to walk somewhere or like something like that, that's more like gentle and less forceful, I generally respond a lot better to it, kind of thing. Persecutors do that a lot as well. Not all of them, but like it's a pretty common thing.
Yeah. But again, like even if there are no persecutors involved in a conversation like this within a system, things can get emotional and triggering and stuff so easily where like someone might not even know that they are talking about something that is going to be really emotional or a sensitive subject or triggering or whatever for somebody else. And like you said, once it gets the other person defensive, it can spiral from there so easily. Also, there can just be issues of like different communication styles between different alters not working great together, and I think that is like has historically been true in the show between Logan and Patton in particular, that their ideals in several ways and their communication styles can be very different. And I could also see, like, from Patton's perspective, that this could look like Logan going behind his back to try to get Thomas to drop a coping skill that is, like, in Patton's wheelhouse, you know? Like, it's interfering with Patton's role, you know?
Yeah.
And I could easily see him as taking that personally, and you don't have a right to, like, tell me how to do my job, is like seeing it that way.
Been known to help us with difficult emotional battles like grief, keeping us connected with a loved one who has passed. They can also help if the loved one just lives like really far away now. In fact, according to Dr. Christine Bacho, professor of psychology at Lemoyne College,
You cited a professor?
oh yeah, nostalgia can help us with all sorts of times of change. To quote them,
And you're quoting them?
we don't know what the future is going to bring. What we do know is who we've been and who we really are.
Wow.
So now this is an example of the opposite of the point I just made. This is Patton going out of his way to use a communication style that works better for Logan to make his point. So this is where, and you can see his response, that he's starting to be more receptive to the conversation because they're having a conversation like in his language, basically.
Yeah.
And I think he would feel more comfortable if it's more in the terms of like an intellectual debate and less purely feelingsy, like Patton started with. Which makes me think that Patton is either like calming down some, or at the beginning was appealing more to Thomas and now is appealing more to Logan, maybe.
Yeah. Don't know. Have to see.
This is quite breaking my brain. I can't believe that this was made by you, Patton.
And what about their potential of actually being alive and keeping their sentience secret from us, I hear you ask?
And there's the Patton that I know. Okay, great. Everything makes sense.
So there's a respect issue here, which I think is important to point out. And I think it's largely one-sided. I think Logan doesn't respect Patton, particularly his like intellect and ability to engage in that kind of a conversation, and thinks that he's like immature and like he doesn't value emotions very highly generally. And Patton is very emotional, and that's like his whole area of expertise, basically. And that can be really hard when, because like that's a common thing in systems for different alters to have such different jobs and be so different from each other in ways that are useful for doing those jobs, but are not very conducive to like good interpersonal relationships between those different alters. And it can lead to situations like this where Logan doesn't respect Patton very much and probably doesn't respect his role very much either. Like I bet he thinks his role is more important than Patton's role, and that Patton's role maybe even isn't important at all. Who knows? And that type of thing can be so frustrating, especially if it doesn't go the other way. If Patton respects Logan and thinks he's very smart and he tends to know what he's talking about, like, and looks up to him and stuff like that, that would hurt so much, to look up to someone who you think is really smart and have them basically communicate to you to some extent, at least indirectly, that they don't think you are very smart, that they don't think what you do is very important, and so on. That stuff hurts.
Sense again.
Well, to intro into that topic, the next half hour will be dedicated to breaking down some of my favorite passages from the Velveteen Rabbit. Starting with this one. You become...
Okay, enough of this.
What?
Virgil, thank God you're putting an end to this.
I'm just fast forwarding to my part.
I'm sorry?
You should be, Specs.
Why sit on the desk?
You're siding with Patton on this? Nope, just two individuals with different but united interests in keeping Benjamin around.
I love this, and I forgot this was in here. I haven't seen this in a while. Because this I think this is gonna like illustrate a point that I was gonna probably make anyway, of it can end up involving a bunch of other alters in an argument like this, which can just like spiral. Like, it can just be a disaster. But it can also help. For instance, if, in this case, Logan seems to respect Virgil more than he respects Patton, and if Virgil takes Patton's side on this and argues it in a way that also makes sense to Logan, that could, like, get through to him better than Patton would be able to on his own, you know? And that can be, like, it reminds me of something that we do with, like, when we're working with persecutors, is we often have alters with a history of being a persecutor directly working with persecutors because they will be more respected and, like, they can empathize better in a lot of cases, and those conversations go better and they can explain, like, why they're siding with this other alter who that persecutor doesn't think very highly of or whatever. And they might take it seriously coming from that recovered persecutor, you know?
Adults. Gone are the days when they would need anything to get themselves through the night. Right? Guess again, motherfucker! These pre-voodoo voodoo dolls can be just what a person of any age needs when dealing with anxiety. And since that's kind of my whole thing, and it works, you wouldn't want to jeopardize that, would you?
Nope. The threatening of one of your friends seems a little over the top in hindsight. Yeah, but I appreciate the switching up of human examples. That's effective for me. Cool.
Various studies have proven that animals reduce stress. Something as simple as petting one of these bad boys causes reduction in the stress hormone called cortisol. And you best believe that cortisol can be taken down the same way by touching a relaxodermy.
Did you guys get that one? Yeah, like taxidermy, because they're stuffed animals. You guys just always got the puns, so it seemed like a good time. It's smart.
For some, stuffed animals are a better companion than a living thing. If they aren't also secretly alive. Yeah. And just like nostalgia is helpful in times of change, so is a security item! Changing jobs, moving houses, Benjamin and other squishy sentinels can be referred to as transitional objects, which give us a feeling of safety during those intense shifts. And more security means less chance of those transitions completely ruining your life. Chew on those facts, get back to me. And don't ever say that stuffed animals are just for playing pretend.
Not that there's anything wrong with that!
Okay, so before we get into Roman's argument, fuck, what was I gonna say? Oh, it's reminding me now too of the idea of, like, how easy it can be, and this goes for, like, all kinds of coping skills and stuff, including even stuff like treatments for things like meds and all that, is the idea of, like, I'm feeling better, I'm feeling stable, things are okay, so I must not need that anymore. When you might come to find out that you are feeling stable and okay because of that coping skill, and that's one of the things you were relying on. So, like, if I'm feeling better and I decide that because I'm feeling better I probably don't need my meds, and then I find out the fun way that the meds were in fact why I was feeling better, which, like, half of Josh's job is just to get me to not do that over and over. But that type of thing of where Logan might be thinking, like, we're not having huge emotional breakdowns and stuff, so why do we need this thing that's for emotional comfort, when they might be, like, doing better emotionally, specifically because that's one of the available coping skills that they're relying on, you know? But also, like, even if they aren't actively relying on it regularly, having something that is available if you suddenly need it, like, even if you don't need that coping skill all the time, holding on to it because you know it will help if, like, something big emotional happens, Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what Roman's argument is going to be, though.
Take it away, Plushie Roman.
Thank you, Classic Roman. You're looking great today.
What is the purpose of this?
It's fourth wall breaking. Just.
Oh, you're too kind, Classic Roman.
Oh, damn, missed my line.
This is a rehearsed conversation?
It's for the spectacle, all right? Care for more food for thought, Plushie Roman?
Red. No, gold.
Huh? Blast! Now I've lost my place.
Why not let the tape do all the talking? Or just change the tape? All of this is simply a mental projection.
No thanks. I'm stuffed.
Damn it! There, you ruined everything, Quiznos.
Are you calling me a hot substitute teacher?
No, you're a teacher who likes giving out quizzes, so I'm saying no to quizzes. Quiznos.
Huh.
His was more clever.
And made more sense.
Well,
It's a good effort, buddy.
But you can snack on this tidbit of knowledge. We experience many moments of quietude, especially whilst adventuring abroad, or simply experiencing the isolating times of this modern world. And our cotton-filled compatriots can act as lifelong companions during these trying times. A trusted aide who will never leave your side, who will always agree with you, who will never sass back or betray you in any way.
There is still a part of me that wishes to counter-argue all of you, but even Roman makes a valid case for these atypical tools fending off loneliness.
Loneliness? Who said anything about loneliness?
I'm agreeing with you for once, so if you could just... Oh, might be, by all means. Thomas, all of them have surprisingly and jarringly worked together to build a case as to why these objects can be helpful. But is that the case for you? You know what? Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
can you pause?
I mean...
Yeah.
That was really important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one, if someone who's used to you fighting them starts responding like you're fighting them, trying to like reassure them that, hey, I'm not trying to say you're wrong here. I'm actually agreeing with you. But then also bringing it back to the original point and asking who's involved. Because you may be convinced, like Logan might be convinced that, fine, stuffed animals are good. But does Thomas actually feel that way? Because he may not have been dissuaded from it. He may still like the original point. You might have persuaded Logan, but you didn't necessarily persuade Thomas. And it's important to check back in with them, or like in this case, maybe the host or something like that, to be like, actually, what's your thoughts on this? Because we may have arrived at somewhere, but it's okay if you haven't.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to add to that is they are making this, it sounds like, basically entirely Thomas's decision, which different systems can work different ways on how they make decisions and stuff like that. That could totally be like a consensual like way that works for some systems to have the host or somebody have like the final say on everything. In this case, I think they're doing it that way because they are not actually intending to portray a system. They are intending to portray different sides of Thomas's singular identity. And in that case, he's the only like person who would be directly affected, I guess. But for instance, like how we would try to do it in our system is if we had like let's just go with the sides because it's easier. Even if everybody else except probably Logan and Thomas, like if Thomas says no here, that he doesn't need it, and Logan doesn't want it, but even if everybody else does, like, or even just one of them did, like if any of them still need it or still want it, that it would be, for this type of thing especially, that we would just keep that coping skill around, you know? Because, like, if it helps Patton, great, you know? And Logan doesn't have to use it. So it doesn't do... I guess maybe I should say that with a little less confidence. probably doesn't do Logan any harm to keep it around. And there could be, like, if it's stressing him out for it to be so, like, visible or something, like if people come over, maybe there can be a compromise of keeping it somewhere less visible, or when people are coming over specifically, having it live somewhere else while there are other people there or something, finding some kind of compromise, but making sure that it's not making decisions like for someone else without their input. Because again, even if Logan doesn't need it, and even if Thomas doesn't need it, if Patton does, then that's still, like, there's still a good reason to keep it around.
Yeah.
Not that anyone actually needs a reason to have one, but Benjamin does remind me of loved ones, and he does somehow soothe my anxiety. And yes, sometimes he makes me feel like I got a little old buddy residing with me in this one-bedroom apartment that I can actually take care of, because I still don't feel mentally prepared to be responsible for another living thing.
Well,
Yes, I do. I identify with this.
well then. I guess the only thing left to do is contribute to the facts.
And as a matter of fact, many of these points being made relate back to the concept of balance. On top of cortisol, many hormones regulate our body functions, and stuffed animals can help bring balance to an assortment of them. According to one study, they have helped patients with disorganized attachment styles form secure attachments and even rebuild impaired attachment styles. According to Dr. Aniko Dunn, they are recommended in psychotherapy and for people suffering from PTSD, bipolar, and other mental disorders. Side note, really glad that I got a quote into this argument so that Patton wasn't the only one. You did it! And you can do it too! By do it, we mean do not disregard the importance of your stuffed animals. And yes, I agree, that is confusing. And we probably should have discussed what we were going to say for our outro. You're free to do what you wish, but our personal motto is, when in doubt, don't throw him out. Again, I wasn't telling Thomas to throw him...
Okay, whatever. Look, Thomas, I was aware of these facts, but I was unaware that this stuffed toy was helping you in those ways. And I would have to agree that if it is, then that's significant.
Is this the first time in a frickin' while you all are in agreement about something?
Wow, yeah, I think it is.
About a stuffed animal. That is, I don't know what that says about us.
Hey, Logan, could I get you to say I'm agreeing with you again, just for my Insta story? Well, the bear offers utility, and I very much appreciate utility.
I guess you could call yourself a real Irwin.
Not sure why you'd compare me to the legendary Australian Irwin family, but I appreciate it, Roman.
But no, Irwin as in Irwin Tools. I'm calling you a tool.
That is such a leap. Why did you complicate it like that?
I would never.
Persist! My wit is so underappreciated.
Don't worry, bud. You'll get him next time.
Thank you, Virgil.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Virgil. Thank you, Patton.
Not bad today, Patton. A little overly silly, but I respect your tactics.
Sometimes passion makes you
Aw,
act
he
a
even
little
used the
silly.
word respect.
Bye, Benjamin. TTFN!
Yeah.
And now that that's settled, Thomas, you can go ahead and move on to my second task of the day, hopefully with no further lifestyle crises. Correct. Thanks, Logan.
And ta-ta for now.
Exactly as many syllables as TTFN. I will never understand some initialisms.
Well, heck yeah. Nothing more to say. Stuffed animals.
I do want to add, I think I already
Hold
said
on.
this.
Ta-ta
go
for
ahead.
now, TTFN? That is the same as... What the fuck?
Uh-huh.
My brain's exploding.
I feel like it is... Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm making this up. I feel like when people talk about, like, arguments between alters and things like that, it's typically about, like, bigger, quote-unquote, serious things. But it is so common, at least in our experience, to have arguments that even get fairly intense about a lot smaller things and completely unexpectedly, and somebody just, like, reacts to something in a way that pisses somebody off or triggers them or accidentally pushes a really sensitive button or whatever, and it turns into a whole thing. So yeah, and it can be a lot. And it helps to, like, work on communication stuff generally outside of arguments, obviously. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
And to build, like, generally build your respect and stuff for different alters and what they do. But yeah,
You want to finish it? Sorry, I thought you were done.
Yeah, I think that was most of what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Discord's a little laggy.
Even though the main reason I'm holding on to you is because you're freaking cute.
What was that?
Nothing.
I thought I heard you say.
The outro is what I was saying. See? Take it easy, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Peace out.
Okay.
This is Smiles match. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was a ton of fun to make. We did it! Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Dude has cookies beside his bed.
Thank you.
Very thematic, melatonin and stuff.
I must admit that is rather pleasant to look at.
I think that's all there is at the end. Is
Also-
showing off the plushies some more. Go ahead.
I think something worth mentioning is for the points that I said earlier about communication methods not being as effective because of not listening or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the way you communicate with someone or the way your system would communicate amongst itself is going to look different than what other people's quote-unquote healthy communication will. This is not an excuse to just like really shit on someone or just say whatever or like dump on someone because, you know, that's just the way you communicate. But sometimes you can get away with doing communication styles like that because you have a good enough relationship with the people there already that they know you're not being serious or they don't take it in a negative way or something like that, and they understand in a better way than normal, which would lead to that actually being good, effective communication and like make your life easier on that point. But it's worth mentioning that everybody's communication is going to look different. So kind of like how there's the broy romance or whatever, where people just kind of slug each other on the shoulders or something, and they're like a little bit aggressive or say, "What's up, you shithead?" Because, you know, that's just the way they talk to each other. And that may not be everybody's style. So kind of keep that in mind.
And
Pay
it can
attention to what
also
works.
it can also get really specific where like you can be comfortable with that kind of communication style in very specific contexts, but not otherwise. Like maybe with really close friends doing the like playful aggressive stuff like that would be fine, but otherwise it would be uncomfortable and not go well.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall I think it's a pretty good example of showing some of how that kind of communication can like start to go wrong, but then also showing recovering from it really well and showing it start to like be more effective communication and actually get through to each other about the points and end up on the same page, which is very helpful. Because you could also get to a point of healthy communication and still not end up on the same page and have to decide what to do about that. But yeah, as usual, Sanders Sides is a great unintentional representation of DID. And yeah.
If you want to see more of this content, like, comment, and subscribe.
Alright, I guess I'll do end card then if you're gonna start doing that. Alright, so it's been a minute since we did Sanderside's reactions. We'll see when we are up for doing the next one, but I'm glad we could do this, and I know a lot of you really like these, so look forward to more, and in general, when we are able to do videos and streams and all of those things, and subscribing and doing the notification bell is a really good way to make sure you don't miss it, especially if we have been uploading less regularly. You are less likely to just see it spontaneously recommended to you by YouTube, so it is a good idea to actually get direct notifications if you want to make sure you don't miss it. But yeah, we will do more reaction stuff soon when we're up for it, and more other stuff also in between, and try to keep it a mix of things usually. But yeah, hope you liked it. Go check out the original video and Sandersides in general. We like it a lot. We think it's really good. And you can also, if you're interested, check out our reactions to media that is actually intending to portray DID and the things we think they did well and the things we think they did less well, and just other videos that we make in general if you're interested. So yeah, check those out, and we will hopefully see you very soon. But thank you for watching. Bye!